please remain standing because that will be followed by a moment of silence with reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We had one additional person that had just called in, joining the meeting. Could you please identify yourself?
Yes, this is Supervisor Pfeiffer.
Supervisor Pfeiffer, thank you. And we will proceed with the reading of the notice, please.
The adjourned organizational meeting of the Marathon County Board of Supervisors, composed of 38 members, will convene at the Marathon County Courthouse Assembly Room, 500 Forest Street, Wausau, on Tuesday, May 26th at 7 p.m., and the agenda was duly signed and posted.
Thank you. I would like to request everyone here to silence their cell phones, put them on vibrate, and also any users of also put your phones and internet connections on mute, and so as to not to interrupt the meeting. And we will proceed with roll call, and I'd ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Beestrom.
Here.
Book. Here. Butke. Butke. Christensen.
Here.
Seiler.
Here.
Conway.
Here.
Dickinson.
Here.
Pfeiffer.
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
Gaber.
Here.
Gibbs.
Here.
Gonering. Guild.
Here.
Gums.
Come on, baby. Yes, I'm here.
Harris.
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
Johnson. Krause.
Here.
Lamont.
Present.
Longenhan.
Here.
Leahy.
Here.
Lowe.
Here.
McEwen.
Here.
Oberbeck. Opal. Robinson.
Here.
Rosenberg. Schley.
Here.
Seefelt. Soibert.
Here.
Stark.
Here.
Van Cray.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
Zhang. Butke. Gonering. Oberbeck. Opal. Zhang. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to welcome all the visitors that we have. And we will proceed on to the consent agenda. Items B7 through 10G. I will make one note that item 10H, which has the Regional Morgue Task Force, There has been a change. Mr. Jim Warsaw has retired as director from McDevco, so that name has been replaced with the new acting director from McDevco, or the new director from McDevco, and that's Vicki Roush. So is there anybody that wishes to have that agenda item pulled separately? Okay, seeing not, I will accept a motion on the consent agenda, items B7 through 10G. Vice Chair McEwen with the motion. Is there a second? Second with Supervisor Rosenberg. Any discussion on the appointments? And the consent agenda with the approvals and the referral of bills and authorizing the clerk. Any questions? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda items B7 through 10G signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. We will move on to resolutions from C, Health and Human Services Committee. Item C11, acceptance of the Trauma-Informed Care Assessment Report, Resolution 34-20. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Johnson with the, to accept. Is there a second? Second by...
Second.
Where's my, appoint? No, that's where's my roster? Motion, second by Supervisor Krause. Any discussion? Supervisor Lamont is recognized. Supervisor Lamont, you had your hand raised. Is he trying to speak? Supervisor Lamont is recognized.
Hello?
Supervisor Lamont.
I would like to amend the first resolved and take out the last the words approved and, that it would just end is hereby accepted.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second to, and the motion is so the motion is to remove the is hereby approved and accepted. You want to remove the word approved.
Just approved and. Just is hereby accepted.
Okay. So the motion is made and seconded that we remove the is hereby, it will read is hereby accepted. Is there any discussion?
Can I speak to my motion?
Absolutely. Supervisor Lamont is recognized.
Thank you. There's a lot of great things in this motion, but there's a couple things that I might have some questions on, so I didn't want to just approve it all. We're just accepting the report, and it says that we'll consider things later. especially things fiscally. So that's my rationale for the amendment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who made the second on that motion?
I did.
And
Supervisor Book.
Supervisor Book made the second. All right. Supervisor Johnson's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I see under the whereas is all we're doing is we're voting to recommend the plan to county board for approval and acceptance. We're not approving it with this resolution, is my reading of it. I mean, it's saying that we're moving it forward. So, for approval and acceptance. So, or if we're approving the resolution, we're accepting it, correct?
I would refer.
Corporation Counsel, perhaps you'd want to weigh in on this, what it actually means, because my reading of it says that, we're recommending the plan to the county board for approval and acceptance. This is not a resolution saying we accept it and we're going to implement it, which would be a whole different, I think that's what Supervisor Lamont is getting at, is does this mean we're implementing it? And I don't think it says that.
I will defer to Corp Counsel.
Thank you.
This is Scott. I did not participate in the creation of this resolution. We have, and I have held the opinion that reports that are submitted to the committee and to the county board are already part of the record of the county board. And again, I was not part of this resolution. I actually don't think you need to take any action on this at all because the report has been presented to both the committee and to the county board. It is part of the record. And it did come forward as an action from a committee. So I didn't take active steps to countermand it when I saw it last week on the agenda. But it exists. It's part of our record now. You don't actually need to pass this resolution.
Yes, I have a question.
I would make one note that part of our strategic plan strategy says the county board will approve a plan that creates a trauma-informed response system for services we provide. And that is objective 3.3. Okay, Supervisor Krause.
Thank you. I this is not saying what that there's any specific financial outlay. It says adoption of the trauma-informed care assessment in and of itself will not result in any expenditure of county funds. The action items all have physical implications, which will be considered during the annual budget and annual work plan process. So we're not approving any particular financial outlay.
Okay, any others? Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this doesn't really obligate because number 2, the very last line above the date where it says considered and implemented through the annual budget and annual work plan, anything that is actually going to impact our operations will be voted on separately because it'll have a budget impact if we are going to incorporate this. All this is saying is that we've gotten what we asked for with 3.3 of the objective, and we're accepting it, we're approving it, and that's it. So I just don't see a problem with it the way it's written, as it has no obligation for us to enact anything at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Lamont, are you requesting to be recognized? You're on mute.
Okay, yes, Mr. Chairman. So by accepting and approving this, would decisions be made that don't cost money?
Could you repeat that, please?
So with this being accepted and approved, would things be implemented that don't cost money?
I would say the answer to that would be yes. That's what the county board had
Then-
asked for under its strategic plan, under goal 3.3. If there's no fiscal impact, there would be potentially, that's one of our strategic goals, was to create a trauma-informed care responsive system.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
So would that go back to the executive committee and then it be brought to the board? Or would those be unilateral decisions made?
You want to address it? The administrator will try to address that question.
With respect to operational decisions, certainly, as referenced in the report, county staff have already implemented a great many operational procedures and processes in an attempt to be more trauma-informed. As it relates to policy by the board already, as the chair noted, made the policy determination that the county should do so and will continue to do that. But as supervisors have previously noted, any action that requires additional fiscal resources through the budget or a budget amendment would come back through the appropriate committees. Not sure that that's answering your question in sufficient detail, but broadly speaking, that's the approach that we would take.
Additional questions? Any additional questions? So we have a motion on the floor and seconded to remove the is hereby approved, and it will read, is hereby accepted. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
The motion is defeated, and we're back to the motion as original, acceptance of the acceptance and approval of the Trauma-Informed Care Assessment Report, Resolution 34-20. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote on the motion to accept the Trauma-Informed Care Assessment Report, Resolution 34-20. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign.
Aye.
The motion passes. However, it is not unanimous. Moving on to item D, Human Resources, Finance and Property Committee. Item D12, a resolution approving the grant by Marathon County of a permanent easement and a perpetual right of entry, 400 East Thomas Street, and a temporary easement and perpetual right of entry, 400 East Thomas Street, to the city of Wausau, Resolution 35-20. What is your pleasure? Supervisor Seifelt with the motion. Is there a second?
Supervisor Robinson seconds.
Supervisor Robinson is with the second. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Lamont still has your hand up. Did you wish to address this resolution?
No.
Supervisor Lamont took his hand down. Any discussion on this resolution, Resolution 35-20? Supervisor Van Cray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have one question. I believe it was in the minutes from the meeting where this was discussed, that they said that they approved this moving forward as long as alternative parking could be arranged for staff and the public. Was that done?
That was negotiations the administrator worked on. I will allow the administrator to present his report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You'll see in the language within the easement, particularly the easement related to the temporary easement, that there is a reference to the city taking on the obligation by virtue of the county granting the easement of providing alternative parking and, if necessary, shuttle service. I haven't had additional discussions with the city relative to where acceptable parking would be located, but certainly we will have those discussions in the near future, as I believe they want to move forward with the project relatively quickly.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed with the motion to approve Resolution 35-20. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Thank you. We will move on to item D, 13, to expand one part-time custodian from .50 20 hours per week to .725 29 hours per week, full-time equivalent for the Sheriff's Office effective 4/5/2020. Resolution 36-20. What is your pleasure? Motion by Vice Chair McEwen. Is there a second?
Second, Schley.
Supervisor Sly with a second. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All those in favor of the approval of Resolution 36-20 signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. We'll move on to item D14, approve 2020 budget transfers for Marathon County Department of Appropriations, Resolution 37-20. This does require a 2/3 majority vote. What is your pleasure?
Stark, move to approve.
Supervisor Stark with a motion to approve. Supervisor Seifelt with a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to roll call vote on the motion to approve the 2020 budget transfers for Marathon County Department of Appropriations, Resolution 37-20. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Beestrom,
Aye.
Book,
Aye.
Butke, Christensen,
Aye.
Seiler,
Aye.
Conway,
Aye.
Dickinson,
Aye.
Drabeck,
Was excused.
Fyfrick,
Yes.
Fisher,
Aye.
Gaber,
Yes.
Gibbs,
Aye.
Gonnering,
Aye.
Guild,
Aye.
Gums,
Aye.
Harris,
Aye.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Johnson, Krause, Lamont,
Yes.
Longenhan,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McEwen,
Yes.
Oberbeck, Opal, Robinson,
Aye.
Rosenberg, Schley,
Aye.
Seefelt, Soibert,
Yes.
Stark,
Aye.
Van Cray,
Aye.
Vole,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Zhang, Butke, Oberbeck, Opal. Thank you.
So total. um, 731. And the motion is carried unanimously with 31 votes, and 0 abstentions or negatives. Moving on to infrastructure, a resolution petitioning the Secretary of Transportation for airport improvement aid by Central Wisconsin Joint Airport Board, Marathon and Portage County, Wisconsin. Resolution 38-20. What is your pleasure?
Motion by Wagner.
Motion by Wagner. Is there a second?
Guild?
Second by Supervisor Guild. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote on the motion petitioning the Secretary of Transportation for airport improvement aid by Central Wisconsin Joint Airport Board, Marathon and Portage County, Resolution 38-20. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to miscellaneous business announcements and/or requests.
Mr. Chairman, this is Supervisor Robinson.
Supervisor Robinson is recognized.
We had a supervisor request information on Act 185, which we covered last week, but I'll give a little bit more of an update. Act 185 was the legislature's attempt to deal with the COVID issue, and one of the provisions in that act was a provision that would allow a county and a local unit of government to adopt a resolution delaying the installments for property taxes. It was adopted in April, and had the county done it in April, it would have affected the city of Wausau. But after meeting with them, they decided not to. And so now if the county were to do it, it would affect the payments that were due in July. But what it would do is delay the due date from July 30th to October 1st. and not create a penalty or interest during that period of time. But for taxes that would not, one of the side effects is for taxes that were not paid by July 30th would be considered delinquent for the purposes of issuing a tax certificate. There were concerns over that. Counties would also have to make a decision as to when they would make the payments to the local units of government. Under the current law, on August 20, the county has to reconcile with all the counties for taxes. In other words, we pay them the amount of taxes due, and the county becomes the banker for any delinquent or unpaid taxes. Under this law, we would have the option of paying local units of government on August 20th for taxes that the county had collected and defer until September 20th the reconciliation of the remainder of the taxes that were not paid, which would create potentially some cash flow problems for the county as well as for the local taxing entities such as a Stratford School District or Everest School District or City of Wausau and others. In addition, it deferred any interest until that October 1st, so that if they did go delinquent, we could not charge interest going back to the first of the year, which would be the normal practice. Based upon work that was done by the Legislative Fiscal Bureau for the legislature, when the state delayed their payment of taxes, a good number of taxpayers chose not to make the payments for last year's taxes on April 15th, but rather are delaying it until July 15th. So there were concerns on the part of the county. If people delayed their July tax payment, it would create cash flow problems to the county, and we would also have the potential loss of interest. Based upon those discussions and the evaluation of the cash flow issues, we decided not to proceed with implementing the act in Marathon County, and it would have required Marathon County to act and local governments to act. And if it wasn't uniform across the state, we would have had a hodgepodge system where some communities were in and some people were out, and it would have created an administrative workload to the treasurer's office to implement. So based upon those factors, we did not move ahead with that.
Okay, this, again, is just no interaction, is just a report, and thank you for that. Again, these are supposed to be just announcements, so I appreciate keeping it according to our rules, brief. Yeah. He wants to speak. Supervisor Gomes is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, that was my question. Thank you, Supervisor Robinson. Very well. Thank you.
Supervisor Gomes, unfortunately, you broke up for a good part of your announcement. If you have additional comments, go ahead.
No, just thank you for answering the question.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any other discussion? Any other announcements and/or requests? Supervisor Krause.
Yes, I have a request. I would like to see that the announcement time be given more than 30 seconds, like maybe 60 seconds. I don't think 30 seconds is enough of time for most people to get their words in. Thank you.
That would require a 2/3 majority, and that would require a rule change. And I can take your request to the executive committee. Any other announcements and/or requests? Seeing none, the only other announcement I have is the Of the new supervisors, 2 supervisors have signed up for potentially attending the WCA annual conference. If there's other first-term supervisors that the fee has been waived, the registration fee has been waived from WCA, we would need to know that by June 1. And so please let the clerk know. It's unclear whether or not that conference will still be held or whether that will be postponed. With that, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for all your participation.